First of all, I just want to say how excited I am to get the opportunity to do this. Poseidon has been a close friend of ours for many years, actually, before we started Syndicate. He's known my co-founder, Will, for many years, and it's been an absolute honor to get to know Poseidon, this community, Outliers, and its extended network more. Poseidon, how much time do I have? Because I will just fly
I
through.
think you can go for 20 minutes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Okay, so I have a lot of stuff to share, so I'm going to move really quickly. My quick background is I've been in crypto for a long time, across many different organizations, both VC funds, labs, as well as even the traditional finance world at Citigroup, where I led crypto starting in 2014, which at that time was only Bitcoin. Now, what is Syndicate? So just to give you some context, we're proud to have Outliers as one of our investors. For those of you who don't know us very well, we're building Web3 native infrastructure for investing. And, being an investor in a VC for almost a decade, it's very clear to me that even before DAOs and Web3 and Syndicate, that investing has been in a multi-decade transformation towards decentralization, actually. You can see this happening, or you could see this happening many years ago with AngelList and the rise of angels and solo capitalists and whatnot. But where this is logically going to be most extreme is by enabling them with technologies like DAOs and Syndicate. The future of investing looks community driven. And in that kind of world, we're talking about not just like a incremental transformation, we're talking about a transformational disruption to this industry. And it's going to be fundamentally better. It's going to be fundamentally more accessible, democratized, and equitable. And most importantly, it's going to be better for these technologies that fundamentally want to be owned by the community of users and partners around them, which is very much guiding how we're developing Syndicate itself as a future network. Now, we have a lot of people that we've got involved in Syndicate. This is the most disastrous cap table that you could ever imagine, but it's very intentional, which is to say that we are building not just a commoditized technology or any other protocol. We are building a social networking, a social network of investors in Web3. And to do so, we're going to utilize our fundraises and everything that we can along the way to start to bootstrap that network from day one, which is how and why we've done it this way. So going into what we're building here, it's a very ambitious stack of actually multiple technologies that combine actually DeFi and investing protocols with social networking protocols. And on top of that, it's because of the combination of these things that you can unlock new applications, new platforms, and new marketplaces and services. I think, one of my observations over the last almost decade in crypto and Web3 is that people think of these technologies in isolation when in fact they should be integrated. And if you think about them in an integrated way, you can actually, the design space opens up even more. And that's very much guiding how we think about Syndicate. So going a step lower, and then I'm going to show you what we're building in this new product or this new primitive that Poseidon was referring to, is that the way we think about the evolution of Web3 native investing is that we started with investing DAOs. And so we shipped a investing protocol in late 2021. And then we shipped the first application on top of that protocol at the beginning of this year called Investment Clubs. As Poseidon mentioned, since launching that tool in late January, we now have more than 24,000 investing DAOs on Syndicate, which at this point is pretty remarkable, all over the world. And we're really proud to be working with Outliers and a number of other great folks that are building their stack on top of Syndicate. But one of the core insights as we've gone deeper is that these DAOs live within broader communities and investing networks. And Outliers is a perfect example of this, right? You have Fund 1, Fund 2, Fund 3, but there is a much bigger community around Outliers of founders, of LPs, of advisors, of experts, of fans, people that want to become a part of Outliers, and so on. And not only that, but there's other networks that Outliers is connected to. So, other investors, other communities, other founder networks, et cetera. And what we think is happening or going to happen is that these investing DAOs are going to connect with and create investing networks that are going to be inter-networked and composable with each other. And with that, we can now start to create new things. And where ultimately we believe this is all headed is the far box on the right, which is what we think of as programmatic capital networks. What does that mean? Well, when you have an investing protocol that is able to programmatically allocate capital based on certain instructions, right, and inputs, and you combine that with social networking primitives that you can develop on-chain social networks and on-chain social graphs, you can then start to build protocols and applications that reference those social networks and social graphs on-chain to then send instructions and affect the allocation programmatically of capital across the investing protocol. And in that world, you start to get really crazy science fiction level things where imagine internet networks that can allocate capital just in time, on demand, in real time across the internet in a decentralized way. That's kind of where this is all headed. And we're building the infrastructure and the applications and the tools and the ecosystem for that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, for those of you who are not super familiar, where we are and where we're going. So this is our page for investment clubs, the first application on Syndicate. You can go here today and get started. When you click the get started, it launches into the app and you can create your own investing DAO in a matter of a few clicks and the cost of gas, which currently it looks like 0.0004 ETH to launch a fully on-chain investing DAO on Syndicate. So when you do that, you just, you type in a name or you create a random one. You can set how much you're raising and in any token that you want. This is on ETH mainnet as well as Polygon. So we're going to raise a $10 million USDC fund. When do deposits close? Whatever, some arbitrary date. And then what is the maximum number of members? 99 is kind of the number for most investment funds in the US. And then that's it. And you create this thing, single Ethereum transaction, and boom, you now have an investing DAO that runs on Ethereum with no backend. Now, this is the demo mode. So I'm just showing you what this looks like. Some of you probably have seen this before or used it. You can deposit directly into it. It automatically updates the cap table, which is tokenized in a non-transferable ERC20 for voting. You can see activity, you can see the assets. I'll switch to, so you can see like what ERC20s are in the investing DAO in real time. We also have an annotation capability where if you want to track investments into private companies, you send USDC to Syndicate and then you get the equity amount on the back end. You can actually record that into the DAO. And then also obviously NFTs pull in real time. So this is the base of the investing DAO protocol and the application. Now here's where we're going. So we're launching this social networking primitive next week. And the social networking primitive is called collectives. And what this enables anyone, a person, a DAO, a community, Outliers, friends of Outliers, whoever, to create social networks on chain using this primitive. And what's really interesting about this primitive is that it's built, it's actually a modification of ERC 721. So we're still kind of working through this, but we're likely going to call it ERC 721M. The M stands for modular. And what's really interesting about the modularity of it is that you can design custom invite methods, referral mechanisms. You can also attach or snap in modules that enable you to embed in identity on chain and the upgradability of identity in like badges or behaviors or histories or reputation into the NFTs themselves. And this whole system is actually built as a developer platform, so anyone can build stuff. And Poseidon, you and I were talking last week about how we're going to open those developer documents to your community so you can start building on it day one.
Yes.
So I'm going to show you some of the things, yada, 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 lots of cool stuff. But the key thing is that because it's built on ERC 721, that's what makes it composable with all of Web3. And that's what makes these social networks, and this is a little bit of a mind twist, composable with each other. So like, what does that even mean? Okay, so what it looks like is that you go in, and this is already in staging and we're just starting to polish it, but I'm showing you what the experience looks like, is that you can go in and you can start to customize the social network. And what happens is you create that and it starts to visualize the network that you're creating. This is the live staging site. So we can call this like, let's imagine it's Outliers LPs, or maybe like fund, for LPs, or it could be fund for scouts or something like that, right? You can upload your own custom brand, or you can, use this to just create an image. You can change it later. And you can say like, this is for Outliers scouts. So you continue, right? And what happens is it starts to present a number of parameters that you can modify. And so going back to here, you can, for example, change how people can join this or even invite people to this, which is where the modularity snaps in. We can like start snapping in other modules that we build or other people build. You can determine if there's a cost to join it or not. When the network, this social network closes to new members and how. And then you can also determine transferability rules. So you can make it non-transferable or you can make it transferable if you'd like. The metadata stuff that I was mentioning earlier, we haven't yet built that in, but that is possible. We've already done it custom for a number of groups, but also Outliers, given how technical it is, could build its own stuff. Now, what becomes interesting is when you generate one of these social networks, right? Syndicate's interface will create a custom page as well as a custom link for that collective, that social network. Copy and paste that thing, and you send that via email, Discord, Telegram, whatever you want, and say, hey, Outliers fund for LPs. Here's Outliers, LP social network on Syndicate. They click that link, they go here, they see, that it's Outliers LP social network. They connect the wallet, they claim the NFT to join the collective, and then they can go to the homepage of the collective. So this is what the homepage looks like. There's a little bit of a design thing, but anyway, is that imagine this is Outliers fund for LP network or scouts or something, is that as people join the collective, people will start showing up, right? As members, you'll see maybe, one admin, sometimes multiple admins of this thing. And, oh, wait a minute. It's not there actually. Shoot. There's a widget here that actually, it should be here, but anyway, what it does is it shows you applications from Web3, both Syndicate as well as non-Syndicate applications in Web3 that you can immediately utilize using, the collective, right? Contract. So for example, you can create DAOs from Syndicate and token gate them, invest in DAOs from Syndicate and now token gate them using a collective. So meaning like, hey, we're going to launch Outliers Fund 5 on Syndicate, but only anyone with an Outliers Fund 4 LP collective NFT can join this thing. You can also, though, use Snapshot for voting. You can use Guild to token gate a Discord channel for those LPs or for those scouts, and so on and so forth, right? And it starts to provide basically like a place where we can start to bring in other things that we're building and will be building from Syndicate into this place. So for example, deal sharing, cross communication, cross collective or cross network communications and deal sharing, cross collective networking and interconnections between people or collectives or people and DAOs and people and investments and so on. Honestly, like the design space is so massive that our team is like just excited to get going. This is also what the admin panel, if you will, looks like on Syndicate as you create more investing DAOs as well as collectives. So you could imagine, for example, that you are an admin or a member of Outliers Fund 4 LPs as well as Outliers Scouts for Fund 4, as well as maybe like, IDO Scouts or Syndicate's friends or something like that, right? The kind of list goes on. And what we can then do, which is one of the big pushes that we're going to start working on once this thing is out there, is what we're referring to as discovery and social networking, where we'll start introducing the discovery of new investments, new assets, new NFTs, new people, new communities, new DAOs, et cetera, on Syndicate and across this network. And the last thing I'll just show is this is the screen for what happens when you're starting a new investing DAO after we update with this launch, where you can token gate investing DAOs using collectives, but also other tokens and NFTs. So last thing I'll just say, and then, really appreciate the time, is that, again, coming all the way back to where we're going, we've laid the foundation for this investing protocol. We're just starting to lay the foundations of social networks in Web3. And then the combination of those two enable new protocols, applications, capabilities, investing experiences, et cetera, that are not possible in the traditional world now that we have on-chain investing and on-chain social networks combined. So that's it. Very excited to be going on this journey and really appreciate the support that we've received from Outliers to date.
Nice. To be honest, this is recently the most bullish concept and implementation that I have in that I see in Web3. I'm not telling this to Ian, but everyone, that I think Syndicate is up to something very, very big. It is not only gonna democratize venture investing, fundraising, but also social network in Web3. And I already see some questions from the audience. There is Chris saying, what is your thought on offering API for other developer to integrate?
Oh, we already are. So if you have developers, tell them to reach out. We already have people that are building on us. Now we've got a Poseidon. Thank you so much for saying such nice things. We think we are doing something really unique and special. We are also very early in our development, so we're trying to do things the right way and thoughtfully. So we're not completely, our contracts are decentralized, are already out there. We just haven't open sourced them. But for developers that really want to build on us already, reach out, and we do have people building on both the investing protocol as well as this new social networking one. So would love to meet them.
Nice. Also, that I think at Outliers, Syndicate's vision is really correspondingly aligned with how and why we got to be able to start it Outliers Fund back in 6 years ago. It was really a bunch of students at MIT that we couldn't bypass the SEC regulation of this 1 million accredited investor or 200K revenue, so that it was actually our first motivation to use crypto for investing. Like if there was Syndicate back then, like we could have accelerated the whole journey. Right.
Yeah, sorry, Poseidon. It took us a little while. And also for the ecosystem and the infrastructure to develop to enable things like Syndicate to exist. But you're absolutely right. Like people ask us, like, what are we building? Are we building like a AngelList for Web3? And our answer to that is no. Like we think that our impact is much bigger. Potential impact is much bigger. Like we think of ourselves as like we could do to investing what YouTube did to media and television and film, which is like the point of it wasn't sticking funds on a blockchain or movies on YouTube. Does that happen? Yes. But was that the point of it and the main impact of it? Not really. Like the point of YouTube was that there are now billions of new creators and content that didn't exist before that now outcompete like movies. And that's what we think is going to happen here. It's going to take some time, but like, the outliers of the world and the networks, the community of outliers, there's no reason why. Actually, there are a lot of reasons. There are more reasons why outliers and communities around outliers should be the world's best investors. And that's the bet that we're making.
Yeah, this is really Syndicate is really enabling every how can I say it? Every people that have a very sharp perception about certain things in terms of investment really be able to stand out from the crowd. That was not possible before.
Yeah. Capital has been commoditizing for decades. And in a world where capital, especially in crypto, infinitely commoditizes, the only thing that matters is the value that you provide to these communities and networks. And in that world, it looks nothing like two general partners who that's all they do is just pick deals. It looks like networks and it looks like communities of experts and people with great ideas and great things to contribute, and frankly, users of these technologies and protocols. So they look more like outliers than they do like two-person GP funds. That doesn't make sense in the future world.
Yeah, especially in Web3, in the Web3 era. I was chatting with Ian the other day that I think in Asia we need Syndicate more than the United States, because in Asia, how capital flows around like limited partners to GP teams to direct investment into startups, and how the relationship under the table goes is usually very hard to find out. Like there isn't really people and companies using a mainstream adapt Crunchbase or PitchBook in Asia. It is the norm that you need to figure out yourself. So today we actually have two big investor LP of us in this call. I saw Zhang Sun Ge, and also Herbert in this call. It was really until we raised from New Horizons Capital, and they point us to a lot of other investors, and having this reference, having this trust, relay of trust, was when we really taken off to start our fundraising. Before New Horizons Capital and DFJ Jabber Dragon and China Renaissance, we literally in Asia is kind of a nobody, and being a nobody to fundraise in Asia is very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, I'm arguably I'm still a nobody, Poseidon, but yeah, everyone at some point is completely unknown, but somebody knows about their talent. Poseidon, you were incredibly gifted. You've always been incredibly gifted.
Thank you.
I think that, people knew about my talents before I became anything, right? And in this new world, if we can get this right, those people will be surfaced and discovered earlier. That's I think, one of the most profound things. And in that world, potentially infinite amounts of capital will flow to those people as they should, much faster and at much larger scales, which really has a chance to change things structurally and fundamentally.
I think Syndicate is actually like realizing, implementing the one word that 1 or 2 months ago, when Ray Dalio and Nielsen, both of them were being asked a question: what is like the core vision or secret sauce when you see investing, venture investing? Both of them have the same answer: radical meritocracy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
actually, as a traditional VC,
some of the ideas for how, Poseidon, you were sharing how Outliers might want to utilize collectives is that's exactly what's going to happen with these tools, even day one, using collectives and to implement infinite scout networks across the internet, and then using tools immediately out of the box like Snapshot to start to surface insights about decision-making abilities and sourcing abilities across the internet. Like you think about just that, which is so obvious, and the downstream implications of what becomes possible, like from there, it's profound. Like, and for me, like personally, like I am Chinese, but I grew up. My ancestors came to America pretty early, and I think about my ancestry and but other communities and folks like us, and like how structurally unequal like capital flows and capital allocation is in our society, and what that creates, and to be able to potentially move the needle and make a huge dent in this in a span of maybe years is worth every amount of effort and time that I can put to it. So for me, it's much bigger than just even like a science fiction idea. Like this could change lots of people's lives.
it is. It's very for Matt. Sorry, I realize that I'm taking up so much time from Ian. I also see many of our LPACs, limited partnership advisory committees, and LPs on this call. Richard Wayne, do you want to say something to? Or
yeah, right. Thank you. Thank you, Sidon, to invite me to join the regular Outlier meeting. It's good to meet all of you and learn a lot. I learned quite a lot here, and I believe Outlier Fund is going to be very successful, especially in Asia. Right. Again, I will try to pour in resource to support this fund. No worry. Okay. Thank you.
Damn, Richard, thank you so much for the compliment. I was trying to ask you to say something to Syndicate, not ours, but that was very kind of you. Yeah, I just want to listen if there is any other feedback, suggestions from the audience about the new collectives, social primitive for Syndicate. When I first saw it last week, I'm mind blown. I see this as like I'm actually literally telling all of the Outliers team, saying that let's just invest all of our time and capital in Syndicate. I think Syndicate is gonna change the entire landscape of Web3.
Hope so. Yeah, I mean, like, an example is like, a lot of people have looked at the primitive and they go like, that kind of feels very familiar, but like a little bit different. Like but what's interesting about it, right, is like, if you just think about it for a little while, it starts to lead to all these really interesting new possibilities. Like an example, let me give you an example. If Syndicate were raising capital, we've raised $28 million, to date across a number of different rounds. If we were raising Syndicate right now, but in a world where there were collectives, for example, at scale, our fundraising and our cap table might look totally different. What do I mean by that? Well, what if Outliers created a 10,000 person network of beta testing users or something that really like were leading the charge in terms of adoption of DAO tools or investing DAO tools across Asia? Like, as a founder, I would look at that and go, would I want to take $1 million from VC XYZ who has 2 people? Or would I rather take $1 million from Outliers because it has a 10,000 person beta tester network on chain? Like, I would probably choose the latter. And
Me too.
if you imagine that all these networks are going to be built, you can, I mean, it might take some time, but like, you could really see how things could dramatically shift in terms of the balance of power between capital allocators and capital networks.
Yeah. And when it comes to Web3 investing, I see the biggest value add that could come from an investor is really to boost up the user consensus based on tokenomics, or like the best tokenomics that could reflect a token price in proportion of its user consensus growth. Having this small base of no matter 100 people, 1,000 people, or 10,000 people, user base that pay attention to your products very carefully, very sincerely, putting themselves on the same side of the startup founders, is really something that is very different in terms of Web3 investing compared to traditional venture capital investing world.
Absolutely. I mean, Poseidon, you were talking about how in the potentially very near future, some wallet addresses might be more attractive than big branded VCs or VC funds. I think that we're not too many steps away from that.
Yeah. For everyone's context, Ian and I were chatting about this, having maybe we don't know who are the actual people behind each wallet, but we know that there is a wallet that have dramatically higher perception in terms of DeFi than Poseidon, than Met, than our general partners. Maybe this guy is an LP, maybe this guy is a portfolio founder, but being able to track how like every decisions, every community and governance proposal this guy's made, which investment bets this guy plays, all on chain, is being able for us to find out who are the actual superstars coming out of each investment clubs. This is like the real radical meritocracy I think people are talking about these days. And I'm seeing it going from a science fiction into a scientific facts right now through Syndicate. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is just the beginning, right? When we get to the programmatic capital network side of the equation, that's where some really weird, insane things become possible. So I'm excited to implement that within Outliers' network, in the months and years ahead.
we commit to be your earliest alpha beta user.
You
We
know,
don't.
if all that ends up happening with Syndicate is that Outliers becomes the biggest, you know, investing network in the world, I'm okay with that.
I'm more than okay with that. Yeah, I saw Chris leaving long message for you.
Yeah, very nice. Thank you. It's great,
Yeah.
great ideas.
I do think that if we were able to set up an office for Syndicate outside of the United States, there is chances that it can open floors to a lot more people, not just accredited investors in the United States.
Yes, and Poseidon, I know we have a DM chat going about that, so I'll follow up with you shortly just about that.
Is there one last piece of advice or words that you would like to say to aspiring fund managers, venture capitalists? There is a lot, I don't know since when, there is a lot of these rising superstars, venture capitalists, fund managers right now sitting in the call of Outliers Partners meeting. Is there any kind of advice that you can give them?
I mean, I've raised multiple funds, you know, over the years, and it's really tough. So, you know, recognize that you're a founder too. The business is just investing, and the mechanics of it are a little bit different, but you're a founder in a way. So stick with it and talk to each other and help each other. I certainly benefited from that when I was getting my start in investing. As it relates to Syndicate, I guess, you know, it's very clear that DAOs, which we think are Web3 technologies that are actually social financial technologies on the internet, you know, clearly create structural unfair advantages relative to traditional tech stacks and infrastructure and systems that you cannot replicate with the traditional world. And therefore, if you believe that, it reasons that like DAO powered, if you will, VC funds or organizations will have capabilities that traditional VC funds and VC fund tech stacks will, or organizational models will never be able to compete with, and likely die as a result in time. So I'm not saying that it's like tomorrow, but just deeply think about that. Like, you don't have to jump, you know, all the way to what Outliers is doing day one necessarily, but you know, there are things that you can do right now that we have a lot of different people that are less innovative, I would say, than Outliers, that are creating scout networks and starting small, or you know, some other things. You know, it'd be like seeing the internet in like the early 2000s or 90s or something, and sort of like realizing that this is going to change everything. Like, you might as well start building capabilities now, if only to create a call option on that future.